What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in to the PWF Empire channel on YouTube. First off, I guess I should tell you who we are. I'm Jay, and I'm joined on the hosting panel tonight by Lucas and DJ Cass. We were supposed to be joined by Dalton, but I guess it's the reason why, Cass, you call him the Invisible Man, because, you know, we can't see him.
I've been telling you that for years. I've been telling you that for months. Like, sheesh.
I haven't even known you for years. How have you been telling me that for years?
Good point.
Alrighty, guys. So we are here tonight to discuss this big news of SmackDown not only moving to Tuesday nights and going live, but this move has been made because WWE is officially reinstating the brand split. I'm going to go to the release that they had, the news straight from WWE.com. A SmackDown shakeup is about to completely reshape all of WWE. Beginning July 19th, the second longest running weekly episodic program in television history, SmackDown, will move from Thursday to Tuesday nights and air live each and every week for the first time ever at 8/7 Central on USA, yada, yada, yada. This move will have major ramifications for all of WWE and exemplify the new era, as both Raw and SmackDown will each feature their own unique rosters and rivalries following an imminent superstar draft. Translating all of that, the brand split is back. There's a lot of information to digest here, so I guess we should start cutting it up right now.
All right, first things first that I want to get into about this information.
Oh, man.
Number one, SmackDown has always, I thought, in my opinion, needed to be live on Tuesdays. I don't know why it took WWE so many damn years to realize this. Like, I never understood the point of fucking taping your shows every Tuesday only to air it a few days later. Like, what's the point of that? If you're gonna do your shows live every single or do the shows live in the audience every Tuesday, why not just show it to the world? And I'm finally happy to see that this decision has been made. Originally, I wasn't for the brand split idea, as we all know why. You know, we could come up with a million reasons as to why we thought that the brand split was a bad idea. But I think what saves all of this now is the fact that SmackDown is gonna be live every single Tuesday night. That is the biggest step towards the right direction, in my opinion, for the brand split, because you can't have the brand split and then still continue to have SmackDown taped. As we saw, that didn't work for many, many years, and towards the end there, it just completely fell and collapsed in WWE's hands, and they were responsible.
That wasn't because SmackDown was taped,
well,
though.
yes,
Like,
there's many. Listen, guys. There's more. There's a lot of reasons why it failed, but I'm just saying that's one of the reasons, because I always felt like having SmackDown taped, you know, it kind of derailed things for SmackDown. It kind of defeated the purpose of us having to find significance to watch SmackDown when we could just read spoilers online, when we knew this shit was online anywhere, everywhere. We could watch it whenever we wanted, how we wanted. It didn't necessarily have to be through TV. But now we get that alternative. We have to watch it on TV each and every single week, live on television, and I'm glad they're doing that.
We would hope that WWE delivers a product that will enable us to sit there and watch live, because just making the show live doesn't automatically make it must-see. And like, I was reading, they had something on Variety, and they said something like, this is continuing this initiative when it comes to the TV world of pushing content that requires people to sit in front of the TV and watch while it's on air and not wait weeks to watch it on DVR and things like that. Simply making the show live does not make it must-see. It all's going to boil down to the actual creative input on the show, but I understand where you're coming from in a sense that with SmackDown being taped, it always made it feel inferior to Monday Night Raw, and now this does a great deal in evening the playing field. And if you're going to break it down, SmackDown is its own individual brand and Raw is its own individual brand. It's very important to send the message to the fans that at the very least we're going to try to have them on an equal playing field, and that's the biggest thing here.
Well, and this is Hold on, Cass. I'm sorry. One quick thing here. This is why I took notes because I don't know if you guys saw the video with Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon introducing
I
this whole
saw it.
thing, but they immediately made it known that they're going to try and make SmackDown important because Shane McMahon and Stephanie, they were arguing over who's going to have the right to control SmackDown and be in charge of SmackDown. That's a clear indication there that they're taking the right step in the right direction of making sure SmackDown is going to be fun to watch and it's going to be a competitive show.
I mean, or that was just like a hype video, a typical WWE
trust
hype
me,
video.
they're not going to do this. They're not going to do this. And
we've talked about this before, Lucas. You like to fall for those kind of things.
Exactly.
But you know who I think? You know what I think is in more in danger here? Monday Night Raw. You want to know why?
Before we get there, can we because I mean, let's go ahead and give credit where credit is due. Cass has barely got 2 words in on the show yet, and
he's the biggest
Mr.
SmackDown
SmackDown over
here.
Yeah.
So before we start talking about Monday Night Raw, because I could just hear him over there. He's about to burst at the friggin' seams.
Not as much as it was last night, but that's around the point. Now,
we'll get there.
People, you have no idea how much I have been trying to plead to the audience that hashtag SmackDown matters.
We have an idea. We've been here. We've been listening. We know.
Hashtag SmackDown matters. Honestly, when I heard this news, I was like, yes, thank God. And Lucas, much like you, I never really got why it just wasn't simply on Tuesdays live when it was just taped on Tuesdays and then it airs on Thursday. I mean, you gotta take into that timing thing, and it's like, what makes you think that people are going to sit down on Thursday night and watch your show? And that's pretty much the start to their weekend, going out and stuff like that. Just didn't make sense business wise to me.
And before it was on Fridays, which was worse.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like with them moving to USA, they tried to put some more emphasis on SmackDown, which I was all for, and I've seen every single episode. And honestly, it's been good from, I'd say, an in-ring perspective, but as far as from a storyline perspective, you're pretty much just getting some of the same stuff that you see on a weekly basis on Raw. But I feel as if this is good because it kind of gives more room for the roster, because it's like when you have one creative team basically focusing on a 3-hour show and you're trying to fit everybody in, even though it has worked, but we've also seen 2-minute matches. We've seen useless backstage segments that don't really progress nothing. At least when you do stuff like that, here's the thing, if we haven't seen Apollo Crews, I'm gonna throw an example real quick. If we haven't seen Apollo Crews for weeks. He's been on Main Event and Superstars, basically on a win streak, jobbing out to Stardust and Victor, and then all of a sudden we see him on Monday Night Raw and he's had no progressions because we haven't seen him. However, if you had him do that kind of stuff on SmackDown where people can actually see him get that win streak and progress, it makes more sense, and it gives more time for his character to grow and more time for him to develop with the audience. So it just
that's the biggest thing for me. Cutting down time that people are available, and that gives WWE the opportunity to tell a more cohesive, consistent story with people. I'm not saying that it's definitely going to work out that way, but I'm hoping that it does. And when you have one creative team focusing on that character and they're not jumping back and forth with some of the inconsistencies that come into play with stuff like that, I would hope that we get more solidified character development and you get more time for stuff like that. Because when you cut down the roster in that way, basically cutting it in half, you have to find some kind of way to fill that time. And I would hope that it comes along with that character development.
And yes. And also another one of the things that kind of makes it great is the fact that we've seen a lot of mid-card matches not have much purpose on Monday Night Raw, and we've seen a lot of mid-carders get a lot of mic time that has had no purpose on Raw. But when you have a show like SmackDown and it's kind of live, I guess I feel as if it somewhat kind of gives those mid-carders their own platform, so to speak. So it's stuff that's not necessarily meaningless, but if they're having a tough time with something, or if they need to work on this, that's probably the show that they can work on. So that way you're not just putting little importance on them on a show like Raw, when you put the focus on the bigger stars, we have a show like SmackDown, you can actually put more focus on the mid-card stars and have them progress, and you can still use your top 5 superstars on that show.
And just to address some of the stuff that's going on in the chat right now, and I've seen this elsewhere on the internet too, it's interesting to me how the different perspectives that this is being viewed from, because I see so many people talking about SmackDown going live on Tuesdays as if that's like the big story. And I mean, it's very important, but to me, I don't give a rat's ass about SmackDown going live and on Tuesdays. Like, the big thing for me is the brand split. Like, the brand split makes me care that SmackDown will be live. But if this was a simple situation where it's like WWE made this announcement that, oh, hey, SmackDown is live on Tuesday.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything.
Okay. Like, and because, hell, I peeped game a long time ago when WWE does those live SmackDown specials. You know, they do it like once or twice a year. SmackDown is live. And I don't, because I realize they're just a regular fucking episode of SmackDown. Just
they all
live.
suck.
Like, the storytelling doesn't change or anything like that. Like, for me, the brand split is the big story, and SmackDown going live on Tuesdays. It's like, okay, well, because of the brand split, I care about that.
Yes, and also because I think, like, and Lucas, I think you gotta. And Jay, I think you gotta mention this too. Yes, SmackDown can be live on Tuesday all at once, but it's all about how they execute it and how that creative team on that show is gonna produce their creativeness onto that separate roster.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited because this is gonna challenge both creative teams now for Monday Night Raw and for SmackDown. Like, remember that little show we did a few months ago where we actually talked about how WWE hired the NXT writer and they called him up to the SmackDown team, and now he's the head writer there. This is the ultimate sign now that there is going to be a war between Raw and SmackDown. Legitimately, there's going to be competition within WWE for both of these shows, because the fact that, here's the thing, like before, when we used to have a brand split back in the day, it still didn't mean anything because SmackDown wasn't live. But now there's legitimate competition here, because this right here is big. This is not just SmackDown being live on Tuesdays. This is a brand split. This is happening, people. There's going to be a war within WWE from both creative teams, and that's going to make things fun. That's going to make things interesting. That's going to make things motivating now for both of these two teams to produce a good show consistently each and every single week and outdo each other. There's going to be better content. At least I would hope so, and I think we are.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I want to say like a cold war, because when you say war like going on in WWE, I immediately think about that shitty ass bragging rights that I absolutely could not stand.
You
like
hated that pay-per-view?
Yes, because it was manufactured bullshit. Like, one thing that I hate in WWE is this corporatized chaos. Where it's things that should occur naturally, but WWE like slaps a sticker on it and brands it. For example, like Hell in a Cell. Like, those matches should occur naturally. It shouldn't be like, oh, hey, we have a pay-per-view here, and let's force some Hell in a Cell matches. And you know, every time bragging rights rolled around, they always did some forced, corny ass bullshit where it's like, oh, hey, let's talk about competition now.
They forced everyone to like each other.
That's why I say more of a cold war, where it's not played out on screen, but behind the scenes you have these two creative teams like, well, shit, my show is live, their show is live, we're gonna battle for dominance. I would really hope that it does inspire some kind of creativity, it inspires some kind of a competition between the creative teams and the wrestlers themselves. And like going into it, SmackDown, they have a hill to climb. They definitely do. So I hope the people on SmackDown have like a chip on their shoulder, like, we got to prove the world wrong that we're not, you know, the B team.
Yeah, and people one of the things that Jay, like, actually one of the things that actually made the brand split going, like, not like in 09, 08, or I would even say 07, even 06, but one of the things that made it so unique was you can tell that there was competition, and you could sometimes tell because people would talk crap the people that are on SmackDown would talk crap about the Raw show, and the people from the Raw show would talk crap about the SmackDown. And sometimes when you had crossover episodes like that from either roster, they would like actually ridicule them and be like, yeah, you're not supposed to be on this show. You need to go back to your damn show. I actually miss stuff like that because it basically like proves like it's your turf. This is your turf and you own it. And also, I'll give a good example here. Does anybody remember SmackDown versus Raw Survivor Series 2005? That match is actually one of my favorites because I can actually feel some legit hate from both those teams, because it's like, we want to defend our brand. This is why our brand is better. Even the commentary teams at the table were like, this is why our brand is better than your crappy brand. So yeah, there's definitely not a lot of realism when it comes to competition.
And one more thing I wanted to say here. I think this is the bigger picture we're missing, are the pay-per-views. These fucking pay-per-views now are going to be a much bigger deal for WWE. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if this brand split initiates them cutting down and limiting the amount of pay-per-views they have per year. Like, that's going to be the bigger...
That's not going to happen.
Oh, guys, because I'm telling you now, this could happen.
The pay-per-views are the biggest selling point for the WWE network. Now that they have that network, they are not cutting the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's definitely...
I can just about guarantee you that.
Well, all right. Even if they don't cut them down, these pay-per-views are going to be much bigger value now, because you're getting exclusive content on these pay-per-views with Raw and SmackDown separated, being featured into one show. And that's, of course, keep in mind, let's not forget that even when they had the brand split back then, you would still see some guys show up on each other's shows. I don't want to see any of that. I want to see real differentiation here between both shows. Keep the Raw stars on Raw. Keep the SmackDown stars on SmackDown. I need to see that, because when we get to these pay-per-views, oh my God, they're actually going to feel like real pay-per-views again, and it's going to make for exciting times in WWE. I honestly look forward to it.
Wait a minute, what are you saying? Are you saying that you think they're going to like have Raw exclusive pay-per-views?
No, I'm not saying that, because I said that they're going to unite into one when it comes to the pay-per-view, making it more special because of both shows being separated. When they get to the pay-per-view and everyone is united into one brand, that's going to feel special. That's what I was trying to say.
Let me actually throw a wrench. Let me play devil's advocate here, and let me throw this a question. In a way, did anyone of you guys think that with WWE announcing this, that a brand split might occur, that this is them admitting failure?
In what way?
Because think about it, the reason, like back in 2011 when they officially did like the Raw Super Show, that's when they pretty much officially decided to go along with, yes, people from SmackDown are going to be able to come from Raw, and that's when Raw basically started to become the main show, because that's what everybody watched, and then SmackDown immediately became secondary. And then that's what continued on throughout the few years, and then all of a sudden when we get to 2013 and you see the World Heavyweight Championship and that WWE World Heavyweight Championship match, remember we were at that point where they had realized that the brand extension was no longer in effect. There was no reason to have two champions.
Well, the reason why they did that, in my opinion, I think is because they had no talent on SmackDown. Like, they didn't have top draws anymore for SmackDown to even consider having. So that's why they were like, you know what, let's just have Raw feature everybody, because it's like we can develop guys on both shows as opposed to just SmackDown. Because remember, when towards the end there, 2011, who did SmackDown really have? Guys like Chris Jericho weren't around. Edge had retired.
Rhodes.
Okay, but come on now. You mean to tell me those guys were going to carry SmackDown on their own? Cody Rhodes wasn't even the main eventer.
They could have.
Cody Rhodes was... Okay, don't get me started. Christian was never built to the point of he was going to be a top draw. Randy Orton was the only guy who they looked at in that way. But even then, Randy Orton...
Wade Barrett? Rey Mysterio?
Cass, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The point is they weren't main eventers at that time. They were still in the mid-card scene.
What?
Those guys were not top players in WWE. They were still fairly new at the time.
But you say that as if they couldn't move there.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not saying they could have moved there. They could have. What I'm trying to say is at that time, WWE was in a desperate position because of all these guys that they had worked on over the years, developing. They were leaving. Each and every single one of them were on their way out. They had to desperately do something to change it up because they weren't going to start from scratch. They weren't going to rebuild from the bottom all the way up. They couldn't afford to do that at the time.
And that's what and yeah, they really could have. And honestly, that's why I say they're basically kind of admitting failure, because when they decide to go off the philosophy of be like, we don't need SmackDown to feel important, we can just stick to our one Raw show, and that's because that's the show that a lot of people are going to be watching, and that's where we'll make our most money. However, Lucas, we have seen this, we have talked about this, we have been. How many times have we been going off on how Raw's been shit? They're not focusing on this person. They're focusing too much on that person. There's not been any progression with this person, and we haven't seen them.
That's why I want to get into Raw now. Is it okay if we do? Because I have a lot to say about the Raw perspective of things now.
What do you have to say about Raw?
I just want to say, obviously, the biggest elephant in the room regarding Monday Night Raw is that if they continue the 3-hour format when the brand split happens, Raw is going to suffer because 3 hours is exhausting enough. And Cass just mentioned it. 3 hours of what we've seen from Monday Night Raw for the last few years has been stale. It has been bad. It has been painful to watch. So if Raw is to continue that 3-hour format when SmackDown is live the very next night on its own brand, and they're going at it every week, SmackDown is going to win the ratings war. SmackDown is going to become the bigger show. You know why? Because SmackDown is going to be 2 hours, and it could possibly have more significance because of that, because you're going to get more faster, better production out of that under 2 hours than you would on Monday Night Raw, giving you 3 hours, knowing that 2 out of those 3 hours may be mediocrity.
Lucas, Lucas, remember, like, back then, and I've seen the ratings because I've watched SmackDown 03 a lot, people. But yeah, SmackDown back then would outrate Raw.
Is that true?
It was because, like, it is true. Because let's see what SmackDown had at the time. I mean, that was basically when they still had the cruiserweight thing going on. I think that they had about Undertaker, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, and they had the Eddie Guerrero and the rest of them. It was basically like their version of the SmackDown 5 at the time. Whereas when you would have Raw. What did you have? What did you have on Raw at the time? I mean, that was basically Triple H's reign of terror. Things weren't different from Raw than what you would have gotten to see on SmackDown. Like, Raw pretty much back then, all they had was basically the main event scene and a little bit of the mid card. Whereas SmackDown back then had a main event scene, a good tag team division, and also a cruiserweight division that they could thrive on.
Going back to what's happening today, like the whole thing with Raw being 3 hours, I would love for it to end. I don't know if it is. Like, I think that I don't want to set this standard for WWE, because what I was thinking about was that the biggest sign that WWE can give everyone that they're serious about this brand split is taking that third hour away from Monday Night Raw and moving it back 2 hours. And I was going to say, if they don't do that, then it's bullshit, because they don't have enough confidence in SmackDown to actually build up the ratings and kind of like make the difference. Because WWE makes a lot of money with that third hour, that additional hour of Monday Night Raw. And I would hope that they have enough confidence in this brand split, in the creative team, that SmackDown can kind of like rise up the totem pole and, like I said, make up the difference. But I don't know, like, Lucas, you were talking about how WWE couldn't start from the ground up. Like, actually, they have to right now. And you were talking about that back in 2011, but they have to right now, because there are so many people on the roster who are talented, but they are not stars. Like, there are people out there trying to break down the different rosters and trying to envision what are we going to get with Raw and what are we going to get with SmackDown. And I look at that list and I see a bunch of fucking talented people there, but they just don't have the character development there. They don't have the legitimacy there. And you would think, or you at the very least, you would hope in a perfect world that with kind of like, I guess the way to put it is when you take some people off the roster, take some people off this show, put them on that one, some people would, like, by default, have to rise up the card. And you would hope that WWE would take notice of that and then book them accordingly. Oh, this person automatically becomes more important, so we're going to start booking them like they are important to kind of fill the void of the fact that we don't have every single star at our disposal.
Yes, exactly. That goes back to what I was mentioning earlier on the fact that, like, when this allows the people who don't get the time on Raw to progress or get mic time. This gives them the opportunity to do that because, let's face it, main event and superstars absolutely serves no purpose. Like, people barely watch those. I mean, it's pretty much just a free for all on those shows. And I see Zack Ryder, Stardust, guys, the Ascension, the Lucha Dragons, who are pretty much, I'm using these guys as an example because they're pretty much the ones that don't get a lot of progression, and they're pretty much doing the little 3 to 4 minute matches, whereas if you put them on SmackDown and you give them a platform to work on, that actually lets them that actually lets them be like, okay, they can be at this level. He can be at this level. Even she could be at this level. Like, imagine if Emma was around right now and Dana Brooke was and Dana Brooke was still by her side. If they don't get any kind of progression on Raw and all you see them is like for 2 minutes or 3 minutes in a match or in a backstage segment, then you put them on SmackDown where they're separate, then that gives them all the time and development that they can grow in the ring and also in backstage segments.
You want to know the way to make SmackDown great again right off the bat? You want to know?
I want to know, Trump. Let me know.
You guys, all right. The first thing that I think should happen, and you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen. John Cena needs to be drafted to SmackDown if they really want to shake things up. Oh, no, listen, hear me out.
Here's the thing, though. They need to make some kind of big move for SmackDown.
Exactly.
And it's only 2 people that they can do it with. Roman Reigns or John Cena.
Wait. And that's where you draw the comparison. You already have a figure on Raw in Roman Reigns. Why would you need to have both John Cena and Roman Reigns on the same show? There's no purpose for that now. So bring John Cena's ass to SmackDown with the United States Championship. Bring the U.S. title open challenge to SmackDown. And you want to talk about making a move there, a huge move right off the bat? That's how you fucking do it.
I mean, that's gonna be hard because it's just you have the fans out there that have just been so fixated on the point of how John Cena, we all know the night he got drafted Raw back in 2005, a lot of people have gotten used to him with that. Honestly, if you really want to do that, who I would actually put as the top of SmackDown, it would either be Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins.
But see, here's the thing. Cena is kind of playing the. I don't want to degrade SmackDown and say they're the secondary show still. But Roman Reigns right now is the future, and Raw. We all know Raw is always going to be the flagship show. They're going to want to keep. They're going to.
How do you know that though?
Well, I'm saying for the moment, because for the moment they technically still are the flagship show. So,
but the thing is, with this brand extension, they need to challenge that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you bring John Cena to SmackDown to challenge that, because I think if you were to bring Roman Reigns, it would be more risky. Don't you guys think? Roman Reigns is, even though he's the top guy for now, and he's still in the process of developing and establishing himself, you already bring a guy like Cena to SmackDown who's been the face and has been established for years. Play it safer with him and bring him there, and that's how you really challenge. But if you put Roman Reigns there, I think it's risky because you don't know how things are going to be with Roman Reigns yet. You got to keep Roman Reigns on Raw. That's the flagship show. Continue to develop him on that show and see how things go there. And then you really challenge them with SmackDown with John Cena.
Yeah, it definitely is risky, but maybe they need to take a risk. Like,
There you go.
I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree with it, but
Mm-hmm.
we do have a comment from the camping troll in the chat. He says, if WWE actually thinks Roman is quote unquote the guy, they can move him to SmackDown to carry it. That would, even above John Cena, that would be the biggest endorsement of SmackDown that WWE could ever possibly do, moving Roman Reigns to SmackDown. But I cannot see it happening. I don't know, because
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Even though I would love it if he was under the guise of Ryan Ward from NXT, because that guy is awesome based off of the work that he did in NXT. So if he got control over Roman Reigns' character, knowing what that guy does with character development on a week-to-week basis, that would be very interesting to see. But like, WWE is already stepping out on a damn limb with this move here. Roman Reigns to SmackDown. Ugh.
That's why.
You also-
See, the way you're thinking about it, Jay, that's exactly why I think it's risky. And shout out to somebody in the chat room who just said Roman doesn't have the fan base yet to carry SmackDown ratings. That's exactly right. So John Cena is the guy to go with in that position, because not only that, but John Cena would also be playing the role of helping out Roman Reigns in regards to, listen, you're going to carry the Raw brand, I'm going to carry the SmackDown brand. Let's see what we can do here, and kind of have Cena settle for less and become the secondary guy for WWE.
I would just like to say that Roman Reigns is one of the most popular guys in WWE.
Oh, he is, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking about in terms of, come on, he doesn't have a bigger fan base than John Cena. That's what I'm trying to compare it to.
I'll tell you what.
Saying that he doesn't have as big a fan base as John Cena versus, he doesn't have the fan base to carry SmackDown. Those are two different things, though.
I'll tell you one thing.
Based off of the surveys that WWE has done, don't get the whole reaction that Roman Reigns gets in the arenas twisted. He is one of the most popular guys in WWE. I think he ranks top 5, like just below Undertaker and Undertaker, John Cena, Brock, and then Roman is like right up there.
I tell you one thing though.
yeah.
I think one of the things we also gotta think about is what's gonna happen with the championships.
Yep. That's key.
See,
because every championship...
Would you guys go for two?
Well,
Two
here's the thing.
You said no,
and-
Lucas?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, here's the thing. This actually goes back to what I said. This would probably be WWE admitting failure if they would have to split the titles again. Because
See,
that's basically them saying it wouldn't work.
I don't think they
I
have
wouldn't
to...
necessarily say it's like it wouldn't necessarily mean admitting failure. It's just that
Yes,
maybe
it
they
would.
learned something different and they want to like venture out and try something new. Maybe it's them admitting failure simply because they did have a brand split previously, and then they kind of like went away from that and they're bringing it back now. Like, I don't know though, because times are changing. Like, the roster is fucking enormous. Like, I make that kayfabe tier list every month and I struggle trying to fit people on in the damn, what is it, the B tier? Like, it's just so many people on the damn roster. So yeah, maybe it's just simply that the situation changed and they reacted with this.
It's something that they should have realized a long time ago. Let's be real here.
I think you don't necessarily have to bring the World Championship back to SmackDown right away.
Yeah.
I think what they could do is just have Cena give the United States Championship some prestige and carry that title on that show, kind of making it feel like it is a main event championship. Because remember, you don't want to give everything away right away. You got to rebuild SmackDown again. You got to rebuild, like I said earlier, you got to start from scratch. So why not build SmackDown up with John Cena with the United States Championship? Get some good stories out of that. Make that seem like it's the main title on SmackDown. And then if things go well and SmackDown's getting great ratings, it's becoming successful, then you bring that little World Heavyweight Championship down the line back to SmackDown.
So basically, you would want the United States Championship back on SmackDown and the Intercontinental Championship back on Raw like they used to do it?
Yeah, why not?
I actually would be completely for that. But one of the issues that we also run into is the fact that, like, if you make that United States Championship, the main title on the SmackDown brand, and you only then where does that leave the Intercontinental Championship? Like, does that all of a sudden become like the major tier title on Raw?
No,
No, because you would
because
still have the WWE
right,
Championship.
right.
But then like they were, but if you have them do that, then that's probably gonna make them velocity wise probably think that maybe they need to up the ante with the IC title, and then you kind of leave the WWE World Heavyweight Championship kind of trapped in limbo.
No, not
No,
necessarily. Nope.
if anything, no. I get what Lucas is saying. Like, there's not this situation that like the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championship are intrinsically tied together. That if the United States Championship increases in importance, and the IC title has to follow it. No, that isn't necessarily true. Like, I understand what Lucas is saying, but then again, it does also send that perception that SmackDown isn't important. If you have the United States Championship as a top title over there and no world title, that, you know, it doesn't make it seem as if it's on an equal playing field to Monday Night Raw. Like, it's a very innovative idea.
Yeah.
I like it, but I just don't see that within WWE's scope. Like, within their way of doing things, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
That's why I think that's why I think it's important to have Cena in that role, because if it's Cena, then you can't assume this is bad if they're just going to introduce the United States Championship, because remember, it's Cena's name behind it, so that wouldn't necessarily be so bad.
But so you're basically just gonna tell people that the only reason for them to watch SmackDown is because of John Cena?
No, because obviously there's going to be other
what you're
talent.
saying.
No, there's going to be other talent coming up facing John Cena.
Then you can't put more. Then you definitely. But you really. If you made John Cena the face of SmackDown, yes, that's all well and good. But who is gonna be underneath him, and then who's gonna be underneath that person? You can't just have John Cena just be the man. Well, you can have him be the man on SmackDown, but then every person
Cass, we said this earlier. There's no real talent right now that they could automatically say is going to carry SmackDown. It has to be somebody that's already established. And
yes,
Yeah.
I know, Lucas. But it's like you have John Cena on SmackDown, but if you make him the vocal point of that too much, then you're definitely gonna turn the casual audience and definitely the wrestling fans off.
No, not necessarily.
Because like I said, it all goes back to, yes, you can have John Cena as the face of SmackDown, but if you don't have somebody that's not remotely closer to him, and if you don't have anybody that's remotely closer to that other person, then if you made John Cena just the top guy, then that kind of makes everybody on that SmackDown brand not up to part to face him.
Yes, because that's the purpose of having the U.S. Open Challenge every week. You're going to have new guys competing, motivating, wanting to take on John Cena, proving that they're equal, if not better than him. I don't see what's wrong with that. I like I like that idea, to be honest with you.
Alrighty, what other angles do we have to explore from this?
Here's an interesting one that I guess nobody has thought of this yet, but I'm gonna bring it up because I like conspiracies. How much of the listen? This is gonna be good now. How much
you say that every time?
How much of the relationship between Shane McMahon and Triple H do you guys think prompted this decision for the brand split to happen?
0.
Really?
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about that for a second, because NXT,
0.
the NXT head writer is under who? Triple H. Who did they call to SmackDown to write SmackDown for them? The guy from NXT, who, again, was employed by Triple H. So what if Triple H automatically wanted to run SmackDown and say, listen, you guys want to bring back Shane McMahon, fine, but keep him away from me. He's going to do his thing on Raw. I'm going to fucking make SmackDown great with my guys from NXT, with my development from NXT, and my establishment from NXT, my writers. I mean, think about that. Really, think about it.
No. I thought about it. No.
Yeah, just throwing that out there, but do you guys have anything?
You're an instigator. That's what you are.
Yes, damn it, because I really wanted to see how this whole thing with the Authority was going to play out, and it's very interesting to me how they still haven't addressed the biggest elephant in the room, and that is Shane McMahon and Triple H. Like you can't just fucking have this thing end like that, and that's why this build up towards July 19th is going to be so interesting because I want to see how everything is going to play out now. I want to see how it's going to go down between Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon because they're still running Raw. So I want to see from now until then how this is all going to happen, how the draft is going to come about, how they're going to introduce the brand split in storyline mode and all that. Because Triple H has been away from television, and I think it's important to keep that in mind, the fact that Triple H is not around for any of this. I think that's revealing there. That's very revealing.
I'm. It'd be curious to find out who goes where, though. Like, I know we just talked specifically about the top guys, like who's going to be the top guy, but just like where the tag team division is going to end up, where the women's division, where that's going to be, all of those things. It'll be interesting to find out what WWE
Oh
does
yeah,
with all of that.
oh yeah, definitely. Because when you have like we always talk about on how like there's a main event division, we have the mid card division, there's the women's division, and the tag team division. And now it's going to be interesting to see how all those divisions come at one. Like, is there going to be like we know that there's probably going to have to be like their own. Like SmackDown's going to have their own women's division. Like that's definitely going to be interesting. And also, when you think of the tag team,
And that's honestly the one thing I'm looking forward to when it comes to this brand, because I always look back on them days and I'm like, man, SmackDown really did have a better tag team division than Raw half the time. So it's like, which division are they gonna like put the emphasis on more now that this brand split might be back?
Wouldn't it be so wonderful if SmackDown got the tag division?
Oh yes, please. Like seriously, like honestly, that goes back to what I also said about other guys that don't get a lot of time or storyline progression or character progression, and it pretty much basically sums up on how like if I guarantee you, if guys like the Ascension had gotten like more time, more like character development, they'd probably be like the top team on SmackDown. And back
See,
when
the
the
problem
Dudleys
with the
were
Ascension, though, is that they got a little bit too much character development when they went to the main roster.
exactly.
Yeah, but what were you saying?
I'm just saying, like you had, and also like when it comes to those championships again, like are we gonna like be back in like the Raw has their own tag team championships and then SmackDown has their own tag team titles?
I would like to see them break it down, like carry a whole division to a show. Because like breaking down the tag team division, the women's division, nah, like break it down in the sense that I guess maybe one show gets the tag division, one gets the women's division. That would be interesting to me.
Okay, so what would you like honestly like? What would you like put on SmackDown and what would you try to keep that's important on Raw?
I don't know. I really don't know because I think if I was to make that decision now, it's kind of like I'm biased to Monday Night Raw. So, because I was thinking about that and I was like, oh, you have to put the women on Raw because
Yes.
if we're in this revolution, you don't want to make them seem like second class citizens. Oh, let's ship them off to the B show. But I would hope that perception of SmackDown goes away with this brand split. That it's the B show. Like I would hope that perception goes away. So I honestly don't know. That's one of the big parts that's interesting about this to me. Like I would love to see one whole division drafted to one show or the other.
Yeah, and like it goes back. It actually goes back to what I said earlier on how like what made Raw and SmackDown so competitive back then was the fact that you had the cruiserweight division, which is what Raw didn't have because all they pretty much was just a big guy main event scene, and they didn't have many mid carders at that time. Whereas you had the cruiserweight division on SmackDown, you had a decent tag team division, and you also had the main event scene. So it all goes back to like what's going to be separate from
Raw and what's gonna make SmackDown separate. What's gonna make SmackDown separate? It all goes back to that creativity on how can we be different from this show.
Mm-hmm. And I know that we all spoke in glowing terms about this and how what we, here's all of the things we wish will happen, and here's the thing that I hope is going to happen, and in best case scenario is this. There are some issues that come into play. Like, I'm not sitting here acting like this is the most amazing news and there's no chance of anything going wrong. There is, but I know that a lot of the issues that I've had with the WWE main roster, they could possibly be solved with this. I'm a big character guy. Like, I'm one of the only damn people on the internet that actually gives a rat's ass about characters. There are a lot of folks out there, you give them a match with some flippy shit and they are satisfied. They love it. You give them a little bit of shock value. Oh, that's amazing. I like to see stories told with characters. And going back to what I said earlier, having one dedicated creative team following this character on their journey, I think that that's very important. It's very important. And I'm hoping that this is something that comes as a result of this brand split.
I'm just very interested to see how things play out. And you guys mentioned this earlier, but we could also see, a different form of brand split here, in the sense that one entire division could be drafted to one show, and we don't necessarily have to see the women on the other show. How interesting would that be? You talk about a new era. Like, that would be a new era in itself, having just one entire division for one show. Again, so there's many different possibilities here that we don't know if WWE is going to come at us with. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I'm very, very intrigued, to be honest, because they put emphasis on new era now. And here we were thinking that this whole new era thing, there was no purpose behind it. It was just WWE shoving it down our throats.
Oh,
but
well,
I guess
you.
well, yeah, but a lot of other people as well, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. But yeah, now there is actually meaning behind the words new era, and I guess we just had to wait a little bit. But I don't know if this made the air earlier or not when I got into the authority stuff and how, we haven't gotten to see Triple H or anything like that, and the fact that it's very interesting how they're going to do things with Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon on Raw from now until July 19th. We've got to wait and see how all of this plays out now from now until then. How they're going to separate them. How are they going to introduce the brand split, the WWE draft? All of this you have to take into account now. And again, the most telling thing of it all is Triple H is not anywhere to be found when it comes to all of this.
For all we know, he could probably be the SmackDown GM.
And that's why I said earlier the connection between Triple H and Ryan Ward, I think is his name, from NXT, and then they bring that guy from NXT to SmackDown. This could be a sign that perhaps Triple H wants to be the guy running SmackDown.
But see, that can be true without it being like some situation where it's like, oh fuck, I hate Shane McMahon. I don't want to be anywhere near him. Give him my own. Give me my own show.
That could be true, but you got to point this out because I love to be the instigator here.
Yes, you do.
Say that again.
Yes, you do. And speaking of you being an instigator, I know there were some things that you said on the show because I saw Cass.
Damn it!
We
really have to get onto that
yesterday.
now.
Yeah, because I'm very interested to find out what the hell he's talking about. So if you guys don't know, well, if you watch PWF Empire Live, you may know. Apparently, like Cass, you were having a freaking heart attack in the chat box. Like, what was that all about?
Oh, you have no fucking idea.
Give me an idea.
Okay. You have no idea how stewing I was yesterday when these jokers, especially Lucas, talk on how Seth Rollins coming back as a heel was bad.
It was bad. It was bad.
Jay, is it okay if I can go in this on this program?
This
You
is
don't have to
exclusive.
ask me.
This is exclusive extension, by the way, guys. We did not.
I'm glad
to
you
talk
did
about
ask
Seth
me though,
Rollins.
because I'm gonna go get like a snack, some popcorn or something. I'll be right back.
And he actually said that on air. So yes, okay.
Okay,
people.
I'm good to go.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay. Here's the thing. I did hear a lot of the points that Lucas made. But again, when it comes to Seth Rollins coming back as a heel, I felt as if it was the right call for WWE to make, because I feel as if when we sometimes have to like try to put ourselves in the position of wrestlers sometimes, because we always talk about how there's not a lot of realism in WWE anymore, and how Vince McMahon, he's not going to get off that heel versus face dynamic. We all know he's not going to get off of that, and what in his mind he wants is a face Roman Reigns versus a heel Rollins, whereas we haven't really seen much of face Reigns. He's kind of been more just not to give a fuck guy. I don't care. I'm going to do what it takes. And that's what I like Roman Reigns. So that's what I've liked about Roman since WrestleMania. And I was thinking to myself, when I put myself in the position of Seth Rollins, why should I change my philosophy on things and my position on the card and as the man in the company just because I was out of action for 7 months?
And that's very important that you bring it up, because that ties back into the whole continuity thing. Like, that is who Seth Rollins was. Well, that was who Seth Rollins was before he got injured. So unless he had some grand epiphany that changed his life, you know,
The injury.
Hold on. Can I please finish? May I please
But what
finish,
does that
because I have
mean, though?
more.
Yes,
explain-
before you,
I'll
what does him getting an injury mean that he's supposed to have an epiphany?
Okay. Have you ever had an injury before? Has anybody on this show or in the chat had an injury before?
I have.
And you mean to tell me getting hurt has never changed your view, your perspective on how you need to change and how you need to be and improve yourself?
Okay, how does that shit? I knew I had to, not have my ankle fractured, so that's how I changed.
I knew that.
But what does that have to do with Seth Rollins?
What that has to do... It doesn't just have to do with Seth Rollins, but it has to do with every freaking pro wrestler that's gotten hurt before and comes back as a damn babyface.
Lucas,
why are you forcing Seth Rollins into that standard, though?
Exactly.
Because you're basically saying it does not matter who Seth Rollins is as a character. This is the way that it has been done with everybody else, so it should be done with him too.
And Lucas, let me finish my point about Rollins real quick. Like I said, if I was in his position, how would I feel? Because if I was carrying the company on my back like he was for almost 300 days, and people were still ridiculing me because they said that I was a bad champion, I was doing bad things, then all of a sudden I get hurt, and then they send me all this fan mail saying, get well soon, can't wait to have you back. If Seth Rollins honestly would have came back and he would have forgotten everything that he did, that honestly would have pissed me off, because that's basically, we always talk about WWE insulting our intelligence. If they would have done, they would have insulted my intelligence, because that would have been me as a fan saying that I'm supposed to forget all the crap that he did back in 2014 when he broke up the Shield, to when he won Money in the Bank, to when he won the title, to when he had his championship run, to then when he lost the championships, and they send me get well soon, and we're going to be glad to have you back, and then all of a sudden I would come back, and then I'm not going to give these fans the satisfaction, because they're a bunch of hypocrites. Because if he would have turned face, that wouldn't have been Seth Rollins staying true to himself and being in any other position that a human being would probably be in.
So basically what you're saying is that it's my fault that Seth Rollins came back as a heel.
No.
Because I talk shit. No, because I talked shit about him when he was in WWE, and I sent him a Kitwell tweet, so... he was out there talking to me.
I just can't believe Cass is falling into the hands of kayfabe here. I really can't.
Look, God forbid somebody take into account kayfabe. Oh, you committed a mortal sin, Cass. How dare you?
Because we all know everyone that does this show knows that wrestling is scripted. So why even take into that role of, oh, I have to play into kayfabe here?
Because that basically, well, Lucas, here's the thing. If you would base that standards on every single person on that roster who came back from injury, then everybody would be fucking babyface. Then we would forget everything that the heel did. We would forget everything that the face did. And when we would ask ourselves the question, then why are there characters where they're not willing to stay true to themselves and actually live up to their standards for what their characters are?
Damn, I feel like passing around the collection plate. Cass is
No,
preaching.
no,
You
no.
sound like me.
No,
Man.
because first of all, it's not about everybody needing to stay true to their character. It's about
Yes, it
what's
is.
right. It's about
Yes,
what's
it is.
best.
Yes, it
it's
is.
about what's best for business. Seth Rollins at this time is not what's best for business as a heel. He needs to be a baby.
But Lucas,
Even
here's
if
the
what
thing.
you say right there is true, tell that fucking story on screen.
And that's what I've been calling for too.
Lucas,
That's what I've
here's
been
the
calling
thing.
for too.
Yeah, but
No,
Lucas,
no.
but Lucas,
Jay,
also,
Jay,
here's
Jay,
the thing, though.
Jay,
Here's the
I said
thing,
that.
though.
I said that yesterday, Jay. I said that yesterday.
But
You
look-
heard me. I said I want to be taken on that journey where Seth Rollins is a babyface, and then he gets the title. But my thing is, they bring him back as a heel, and they already insert him into the title picture. That doesn't
That's
necessarily
part
have to
of
be
the
the
story,
case.
though.
But
that's part of the story. Like, they can't.
But that's
if-
reverse.
if-
They're doing
if
it backwards.
It's not reverse. If you expect them to tell the story, if you expect to follow the story, looking back at what happened with Seth Rollins, he was basically put on pause, and they're resuming the story where he left off. He left as a heel. He's coming back as a heel. So if there is a story to be told, what we saw with Seth Rollins re-establishing himself as a heel, that was a necessary part of the story. Like,
Yes,
and
also-
I called you out on this already. You love to skip chapters. You're the type of guy that will read a damn book and read on chapter. You start on chapter 13. You're like, I don't care about that character building. I don't care about establishing the world. It's like a sense of impatience with what is necessary to establish a road.
And you want to know what's another example?
All I'm saying is Seth could have been brought back as a heel, but he doesn't necessarily have to be going for the title right away. That's what I'm trying to say. You could build a story with him facing somebody else, and he's the heel, and then he wins a few matches as a heel, then he breaks up with the Authority, and then he faces Roman Reigns for the world title.
But here's the thing. I'm about to give you another example. Monday Night on Raw, when Seth Rollins got that interview, who did we see? And Jay, I know that you weren't really big on him interacting with Stephanie, but I was actually big on that because, again, that is Seth Rollins staying true to himself. Again, why the hell should he change his velocity? Yes, and why the hell should he change his velocity and act like he's seen the light? He should still believe that he is the man and he is still in position with the Authority, and that is good damn continuity. And for Stephanie to say our business relationship is gonna have to be kaput, that is it, then this is where the story is gonna happen with Seth Rollins just probably shortly being a heel and then him naturally and organically turning the face, so that way we can finally get away from the character Seth Rollins that we had to go through for the entire year of 2015. We have to get rid of the character first from 2015 in order for people to finally take Seth Rollins seriously as a new character, so that way he can be shown in a different light later on down the line.
No,
and now that I look at it this way, I appreciate the way in which WWE is doing it. If this is the road that they're going down, because one thing that I absolutely cannot stand is when they do things and they're playing to the crowd for pops. And if we had Seth Rollins come back as a face and he was a face for like he didn't have that heel turn on the crowd on Monday, people are going to love him and they're going to cheer, and that's going to be awesome optics, and everybody is going to be amazed by that, and they're going to talk about how great it is because Seth Rollins is a face and everybody is cheering
a bunch of hypocrites.
WWE, they said, you know what? We don't give a fuck about that. We actually care about telling a story. So thank you, Cass, because I can see it now, but it all boils down to if this is the direction that they're going,
and that's what you guys don't know yet, and that's what you guys don't know.
We don't know, Lucas. That's the thing. We don't know. I just said it on this. I said it on this. Like, for all we know, Seth Rollins, he could probably be a heel, but he could probably still change. He could probably be a heel for a short-term thing, and then he turns face. But the point is, Lucas, we have to get rid of the Seth Rollins character that we saw in 2015. We can stem off this a little bit, but we have to slowly progress and organically get him out of that shell, and maybe we can see how much of a good heel or how much of an even better face that he can be later on down the line.
And until we get rid of that, I'm gonna keep bashing it. I'm gonna keep shitting all over it because I'm entitled to do so. Jay, you've been doing it, so now you mean to tell me you're not gonna do it anymore just because there's gonna be something light out of this? No, you hated the Seth Rollins character, so I'm gonna continue to hate the Seth Rollins character. Yeah, so what's wrong with that? What's wrong with me still wanting to hate it?
Because if this is a story to get rid of that character, it's not necessary for me to hate him.
But I can still hate. He's being a heel, right? And that's what we're supposed to do, is hate the heels, right? So why can't I hate the fucking heel?
You can do that.
Just on here talking about kayfabe.
Well, I'm using your standards now, right? So I can be a little bit of both, right? So if you guys want to challenge me on that end, then fuck, I should be going Seth Rollins then.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I already gave my 2 cents. Lucas. You just hate the fact that I finally gave you logical reason. And let me just say this, for all the people bitching out there that Seth Rollins did not come back as a face, I hope that I enlightened you, and I hope I gave you some logical fucking reasons to why you just need to sit your asses down, and that's good point.
Man, well, tell him how you really feel. Cass just dropped some knowledge and then slapped everybody afterwards. Like, didn't even give us a chance to process it. Like, you're gonna take this shit.
But again, one thing he's missing out.
I get it, Cass.
One thing he's missing out on is the fact that there are no heels on Raw right now.
There are none.
So they could very well keep Seth Rollins as a heel for all we know. So just pointing that out. You don't know that yet.
And you don't know that either.
Well, I think I have more of a reason to believe that that's how things are going to stay with Seth Rollins as a heel, given the fact that they have no fucking top heel right now.
All right.
Yeah. Come on. What do you got to say now?
I gave my 2 cents, so I'm good. Because I know I'm right.
Cass just dropped the mic. Like, I don't have to say anything else.
Well, I finished my point, too.
Was there anything else that pissed you off about the show yesterday, Cass?
Oh no, that was pretty much the only thing. I'm good now.
Lord have mercy. Okay. I think that I see when you're provided with these moments, we can't pass those by. It's like with I watched that interview Mick Foley did with Shane McMahon on the WWE Network, and they were actually supposed to talk about stuff after that, but they were like, damn it, that's a perfect note to end the show on. So I'm going to take a note from them, and we're going to end this now. This was very fun, guys. I don't know if you guys had fun, but I had a lot of fun.
Oh, I did too. Believe me. Like, hashtag SmackDown matters. I'm finally getting my damn wish.
Yeah, it was well earned too. Well earned. Right. You ride or die for SmackDown. So I hope you take in this moment and you really process it in, because this is some good news. Really. Very. Good news. All right. Any closing thoughts from you, Lucas?
No chance in hell.
Alrighty, thank you guys for tuning in to this show. This is just an experiment for us. What we wanted to do was make sure that we displayed a clear difference between this show and PWF Empire Live. That's why we're not on camera. That's why we have different hosts on air and things like that. So let me know what you thought about this show, whether it be I would say, if you're gonna let me know on YouTube, wait until after the live show ends and then post the comments on the comment section that's down below, because as great as these live comments are, love you for watching, but they're gonna like disappear the second I close out this browser. So I really want to know what you guys thought about this show, just the format and the way in which we talked about things, all of that good stuff. I want this to be a lot more loose than PWF Empire Live is, and I want to know if that actually connected. So yeah, let us know on YouTube. You can also hit us up on Twitter. You can see all of our usernames on screen right now. As Cass would say, or he used to say, hashtag PWF Empire.
Oh my
hashtag
Lord.
House27. Hashtag Cass 10 Goodwin. He was a Twitter noob a few months ago, and he was like, follow me.
You're never going to let that go, are you?
No, we're not, because that was hilarious. But, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flip side. Peace out.